Oh, cheers.
Cheers. Hi.
Hi. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday to you too. And this is the last Sunday of winter. Tomorrow at approximately 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, it will be the vernal equinox. I always get those two mixed up. Vernal equinox is tomorrow, which means it's also Oberon Day. So that's going to finish off the weekend of power drinking that has been this weekend because, of course, we had St. Patrick's Day on Friday. We've had the opening weekend of March Madness, which has been very fruitful with upsets. And then, of course, tomorrow is Oberon Day. For those of you that don't know what Oberon Day is, Bell's Brewery in Kalamazoo releases Oberon, which is its summertime wheat beer. And they release it the first day or the first Monday after spring. And it just so happens that the first Monday after spring is the first day of spring this year. So there you go. Okay.
There's going to be so much vomit everywhere after Monday.
Downtown Kalamazoo is already vomit covered. Or as I've been binge watching Dairy Girls all weekend as a way to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. They're going to boke. They're going to boke all weekend. They're boking everywhere.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Catch yourself on. Those are the phrases I've taken away from Dairy Girls this weekend are Waynes for wee ones. They're for children. Boke for puke, and catch yourself on, which means don't be ridiculous.
My favorite one is, oh, that's Cracker.
Cracker, hi, Craig. What's the other one that they say when they're? I can't think of it, but yeah, there's just. Yeah, if you've never watched Dairy Girls, spend some time. It's 3 seasons of bliss. Do watch it with subtitles though.
Oh, do.
It moves fast, and it is a real live Northern Ireland accent you're listening to there, and it's tough.
It's tough. Sometimes I'm like, I swear to God, they're not speaking English.
Yeah, super great. Anyway, because I didn't go out and get all shit faced on St. Patrick's Day. I just stayed home and watched 3 seasons of Dairy Girls. So there you go.
Yeah, no, that is amateur hour doing that sort of thing. It's like,
yeah, I don't do amateur night anymore.
I can feel the stickiness from here.
You remember, like at Eastern, because both Anna and I went to Eastern Michigan University, and anybody that's ever been in a college town on St. Patrick's Day, the fun starts at 7 a.m. and there's just so much urine and barf everywhere.
Duncan and I, we lived for 16 years. We lived like on the very eastern edge of campus. And so I'm not exaggerating when I say at one point there was a dozen bars within walking distance of us. And you could hear St. Patrick. And if it was on a Friday or Saturday, it was bonkers. It was bonkers. It didn't matter the weather. Like if it was snowing, you could see more vomit. It was just bonkers. I don't miss it.
No, I don't miss that at even a tiny bit because it really is just really, really awful. And I'm you're right over there. I'll take over. I got this. So while Anna's choking on her delicious frozen margarita in a pouch, I will take over the programming at least until my sister has recovered enough. So if you were
homage to St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, Anne's homage to St. Patrick's Day, which is a green pouch of margarita, which is really if you're gonna drink, you might as well drink a delicious pouch drink because you just put it in the freezer and then cut it and then into the glass.
The thing is that's so frozen is you can't drink it super fast. So you have to wait for it to melt a little bit, take some more sips, wait for it to melt a little bit. So you can't get totally
hammered. And we're also celebrating the 1-year anniversary. This time last year, Anna and I were in beautiful, funky cold Medina, Ohio, with Duncan and Joe, our husbands, because it was the Buzzard Fest.
And actually, in Hinckley, Ohio, has the Buzzard Fest. Yes. But the town is like the size of the square that I'm in right now. Yes. So we had to stay in Medina or near the Medina area so that we could have a hotel. But yes, we went to the Buzzard Festival in Hinckley, Ohio. So yeah, it's going on this weekend.
Where you and I got drunk on margaritas at the local Mexican restaurant. I'm not sure if that's cool or pathetic that we got wasted at the Mexican restaurant in Medina, Ohio.
No, Funky, yeah, Medina, yeah. Because we kept asking people, how do you say the name of this town again? And then we'd forget.
And then finally somebody gave us a mnemonic. The people next to us, this nice couple with a baby, were like, just remember Funky Cold Medina. And we're like, oh,
Yeah. That helped a lot.
It did.
I was like, I'm not sure if this is cool or super basic. I think it was super basic.
See, it wasn't our fault, Anne. The margaritas at that restaurant were particularly delicious.
I don't think I've ever had a better margarita.
Nor I. They were so good. And then when you were like, should we have another? And I was like, duh.
Our waiter was no help. He's like, yes, you should. He's like, oh, you're smart. I like you. Bring another.
So, yes. So, hey, speaking of overindulging, should we talk about the movie we're reviewing today?
Yes. Let us talk about Cocaine Bear.
It is. So, at long last, we finally saw the Cocaine Bear, and we both had some thoughts on this movie.
Oh, I had tons of thoughts. I wrote a whole dissertation.
Yes, this is going to be Anne's doctoral thesis. So I'm going to step back and I'm going to let Anne talk about this, and then I will give you my thoughts later. But really, this is Anne. You knocked yourself. You outdid yourself on this one.
I did. I was like, yeah, I am committed to Cocaine Bear.
Yes, you committed to Cocaine Bear. You are high on Cocaine Bear.
Exactly. Exactly. So it came out this year. It was directed by Elizabeth Banks. You may know her from the what is those acapella movies? The singing ones.
Oh yeah. Why can't I think of the name of those?
I can't think of the name.
Pitch Perfect. The Pitch Perfect movies.
Yeah, you would know her from the Pitch Perfect movies. This was written by Jim Warden. I looked for other stuff. I have to admit, I didn't look long, but I was like, hey, is there anything else? Nope. That I could find on my Google search after 3 seconds. I was like, oh, nothing else. Never mind. But I really loved, one of the things I did love about, it was made me curious about seeing this movie after I saw the preview, was that the fact that it was directed by a woman, and Elizabeth Banks, who's quite funny. So I'm like, yeah, definitely. This has cult classic written all over it. So I was all in.
For real.
Okay, so Cocaine Bear is, I will argue that it's a modern fairy tale. Not just a horror movie, but a modern fairy tale. So here's a little synopsis. Once upon a time, in an enchanted land called Georgia in the 1980s, 2 adventurous children traveled into the deep, dark Chattahoochee National Forest. There they encounter a murderous bear under the spell of evil fairy dust. Now they must be rescued, not by the handsome prince or by the police, but by a plucky, brave nurse with the heart of a knight in shining armor.
Dude, that was beautiful. I mean,
yeah.
Nice.
Trigger warning before we get any further. If you are not up for bear on human violence or human on human violence or children doing cocaine, then you should avoid this movie. And I'm not joking about any of this.
A lot of cocaine in this movie. A lot.
A lot. Yeah. A lot. And not all of it is done by the bear.
Yeah. But I will say on the part of the kids, they kind of did it by accident. So it's fine. It's fine.
So let us break down who our characters are in this modern fairy tale. Our heroine is Sari. She's the mom, and she's played by Carrie Russell. And if you ever watched The Americans, that show on FX, she was one of the Americans, so one of the Russian spies.
Like half the characters in this movie were the Americans.
Exactly. So she is fearless and brave, and she is armed with only a pink jumpsuit, which she totally rocks, and a 10-speed bike. Remember, this is the 80s, so
yeah, and she
jumpsuit.
Yeah, the pink jumpsuit was, to me, one of the best characters in the entire movie. For real.
And you think about, she has to strip that whole thing down to go pee in the woods.
Oh, God. It's just like every time she would come on screen, I'm like, it's Olivia Newton-John. I'm like, no, wait, it's not, because that's what that jumpsuit is. That jumpsuit is Olivia Newton-John.
Just the hairband, and it would have been, man, it was awesome.
Yeah. So rocking.
Our villain is Sid, the drug dealer, and he's played by Ray Liotta, who this is his last film. He passed away recently, so this is Ray Liotta's last film. He's a cocaine dealer in the 80s. You get the picture. What else do I need to say?
Nothing.
The children, so the ones that need to be rescued. We have Dee Dee, who's Sari's daughter, and she's played by Brooklyn Prince, and she's bright, creative, and artistic, and she's angry with her divorced mom for having a new boyfriend who, by the way, is a doctor, and even mothers have needs, so step down, Dee Dee.
Yeah,
And then we also have Henry, played by Christian Convey, and he's Dee Dee's best buddy, and he's the plucky comic relief in this movie, and he has some of the best lines in this movie. And I'm not big on children in movies, but these two do a very good job.
Well, and I think it helps that because, like you said, this being a modern fairy tale, what children's fairy tale, what fairy tale doesn't have some kids in it, you know?
Exactly.
So yeah,
Exactly.
they are actually sort of one of their, it's kind of part of the driving part of the story, you know?
Exactly. Important driving part.
Yes.
So I would argue that in this movie, we actually have two princes, not just one. We have David, who's played by O'Shea Jackson, who, interestingly enough, is the son of Ice Cube. So
He looks just like him, sounds just like him.
So he works for Sid, the drug dealer. He's best friends to Eddie, and we'll meet Eddie in a second, who's Sid's son. He's loyal, but not to be fucked with. And there's a bathroom scene where you're like, damn.
Yeah.
And then, of course, our second prince is Eddie, who's played by Alden Heinrich, son of Sid, the drug dealer. He's a recent widower, so he is under the spell of grief and sadness. Because of this, he's a bit useless. So I don't want to, downplay his grief and sadness, but getting him to do anything, even take care of his own son, is difficult.
Super sad. He's super sad.
We have law enforcement. We have Bob, who's a police detective, played by Isaiah Whitelock Jr. He's brave and honest. And then we have Officer Reba, who's played by, and I cannot say her first name, I apologize. I'll call her Miss Smart. And she's brave, but not so honest. So
No.
plot twist right there. Dun dun dun.
Yes.
And then, of course, we have the fools or the idiots or the tricksters, which we usually have in a lot of fairy tales. We have Stash, played by Aaron Holiday. We have Ponytail, played by Leo Hannon. And we have Vest, played by J.B. Moore. Spoiler alert, only one of these guys survives. It's pretty good. Most of the time, the idiots or the tricksters or the fools, they don't survive at all. So there you go.
The fact that 1 out of 3 made it out is pretty good. Pretty good.
And they are idiots, so it's impressive that any of them made it out.
Yes.
And then, of course, we have all the hapless villagers / victims. We have Margot Martindale, who plays Ranger Liz. Hilarious. She's so funny. Christopher Hivju as
Something
himself.
Norwegian.
Something Norwegian. You might remember, if you were Game of Thrones fans, you might remember him from Game of Thrones. We have Jesse Taylor Ferguson, who plays Peter. You might remember him from Modern Family. We have Scott Seith as Tom. And Tom was one of the ambulance drivers. And you may know him from YouTube. He has a bunch of hilarious videos about somebody who works in retail. They are so funny. I highly recommend you see them. And then we have Kyuth Kim, who plays Beth. She plays the other ambulance driver. And if you want to see how hot she is, you should check out pictures of her on their when they did the debut of the release of the movie theater. Dang, girl. And then, of course, we have Matthew Rye Evans, who plays the pilot. He has this teeny part, but he's actually the other half of the
cast of The Americans.
And he and what's her name are married, so that's funny too. Also, he is Welsh, and if you've ever heard him use his when he's actually speaking like not as an American, that Welsh accent is crazy. So.
Huzzah!
Exactly. So, needless to say, a lot of the violence is directed. I mean, everybody, there's a lot of violence. I'm just saying, most of those people that we just saw, spoiler alert, don't make it to the end of the movie.
Oh, none of these guys do.
Yeah, so,
not one of them.
They're really funny until
the end. Until various things and them. Mostly bears.
Why I think this movie is a modern fairy tale and not a typical genre bender or horror flick. As I've tried to show with my slides, this movie ushers in the next wave of modern fairy tales. while at the same time being a classic example. It is set in the recent past instead of a land far, far away, but it is as violent as original fairy tales. It has good and evil, victim and victor, and a moral or a lesson to the story. In this example, don't underestimate nature and don't give bears drugs.
That is a life lesson right there, Ann Brothers. Life lesson.
Life lesson, because you know, drugs are bad.
Drugs are bad. Don't do drugs with bears.
And then, of course, I've given like some examples of other modern fairy tales. So my first list is original modern fairy tales, which means they're from an original story, yet they use a fairy tale sort of way to tell them. So Pan's Labyrinth, Shrek, Princess Bride, Edward Scissorhands, The Shape of Water, Legend, The Never-Ending Story. These are just to name a few, and these are ones that I've actually seen. So I just use my list as what I actually seen. And then I have a list of remake of fairy tales, which with a modern twist, like White Swan or Into the Woods, Snow White and the Huntsman, Maleficent, Hansel and Gretel, Witch Hunters, which is terrible. And those, again, just to name a few. So I argue, my argument is that it should fit in the first column of original modern fairy tales. So that is my thesis.
Dude, if I were like listening in, I would totally just give you a doctorate. I'd be like, yo, here's your doctorate.
Eastern certainly would.
Ouch. Okay, so yes, I would agree with you, Ann Brothers, that what we saw was a modern fairy tale. However, was it a movie worthy of your time? And my answer would be not so much.
Oh man, I want to see it again.
I know this is one of the few times that you and I did not see eye to eye on a piece of pop culture entertainment. And I thought a lot about this because Joe and I went last week when I was up in Petoskey. And afterwards we went out and we had a drink and we kind of processed what we saw. And this is what I thought. This is what I was sitting there contemplating, looking around, watching all these people at this big old distillery in Petoskey. And it's like, this is listed as a horror comedy. However, one of the things I noticed is I don't think it knew what kind of horror comedy it wanted to be. So it couldn't seem to figure out, because I think you can base horror comedies in two categories. You can say that it is like a Sharknado, which is a blatantly C+ movie, and it totally digs itself. It embraces the fact, I'm like, this is a terrible movie. We're going to make this as dumb and funny as possible. And then you have like a Shaun of the Dead, also a horror comedy, that takes a classic horror trope, zombies, and it turns it into this sharp and witty tale of what happens when a couple of man-children get caught in the zombie apocalypse. And, and so I really I walked in wanting something to be Sharknado, or I wanted it to be Shaun of the Dead. And this one fell blandly in the middle. And I was just like, yeah. And so I left dissatisfied. It's like, when we watched the movie Velocipaster, and you're like, you just walked away from that going, what the fuck did I just watch? God, that was awful. And I loved it because it was like, that dude was so committed to his garbage that you couldn't help but love it right along with him. And I just don't feel like anybody was doing that in this movie. So anyway, there were some things that I did like. Here's what I liked. I'm Team Bear all the way. I'm wearing my Kalamazoo Growlers hat right now to show my love for Team Bear. That bear was a committed and loving mother who just wanted to get all the cocaine for her and her cocaine-addicted cubs. Okay? That's right. By the way, there's coke-addicted cubs in this movie. So
it's not just one bear, it's 3 bears.
3 bears, 3 cocaine bears.
Here we go, Jenny. Back to my modern fairy tale. 3 bears.
3 bears. You're right. God, you're right, Ann. It was like the 3 bears. Anyway, I also loved Henry, the kid. He was the plucky sidekick, and he got the best lines. He got most of the best lines in the movie. My favorite part is where he is clinging to the tree and he's talking to the bear expert who's clinging to the other tree. And the bear guy's freaking out because bears can climb trees. He's like, and Henry's like, bears can't climb trees. And the biologist is like, of course they can. And Henry's like, what are you doing up here then? Yeah, dude, he's right. What are you doing up there? You know better. So I loved Henry because I really did feel like He was very much was like the smartest kid in the room the whole time. Stash, who is the one who lives, he's the one of the group of the burnout group who survives. And again, he's got all the other best lines. Is he basically takes over as the psychologist to Eddie, the one who's sad, who's lost his wife. And he basically takes over as his. We'll just call him his support hostage. I don't know other way to say it.
It's like they flipped. What is it? The syndrome on its head. You know, when you get kidnapped and then you start like sympathizing with your captor.
Yeah, it was like opposite Stockholm syndrome. So,
Exactly.
and then finally, Margot Martindale as Ranger Liz. And as far as I'm concerned, this is Margot Martindale's world, and we're all just living in it because you talk about a woman that has just had this quiet little career that we all know who she is. We've all seen her 1,000 times, and she just keeps getting work because she's literally one of the greats. So, and the fact that she's just this horny park ranger is just fantastic.
With a gun.
With a gun. A very large gun.
And a musty beaver.
And a musty beaver. Yep.
Oh.
Whew. All right. So these are the things I did not like about Cocaine Bear. And it's mainly the writing. You said earlier that the guy that wrote this hasn't done anything else. I'm like, well, here's why. Because everything about this was, I'm like, so I thought it left so many things on the table. It was shallow. And I'm spoiled. Like I said, 3 of my favorite genre comedies are Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and World's End, which is otherwise known as the Cornetto trilogy, which is 3 Edgar Wright vehicles, who, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the sharpest writer-director guys on the planet. And the depth of humor that you achieve in these 3 movies has left me spoiled because I want all horror comedies or action comedies or sci-fi comedies to be like that. And so I also felt like the last 20 minutes was a mess. I felt like they had no idea what to do towards the end. So we end up with Ray Liotta hanging off a cliff, getting his entrails eaten out by bears, and that is, it was just a bummer. And at times I felt like this movie took it too seriously. Like, and I'm just like, how is that happening? And the thing with the cops, and I don't even know what that mess was. And why is she even here? And why is he up on there? And I just,
why is the dog there?
Why is the dog there? It reminded me of Caddyshack because everybody loves Caddyshack. I don't, because it's just this series of snippets that they've sewn together, and now it's a classic, and this felt the same way. Like we had these series of snippets of people getting mauled by the bear with no place to go with it. So I didn't love it because of that. And to me, it really is, this is an issue of writing more so of anything else. And it bothered me. So I decided not to get upset when I'm like, you should do. You can go see Cocaine Bear and see for yourself. I would wait till it streams for sure. But these are movies that I think you could watch instead of Cocaine Bear. And again, I categorize them into 2 groups here. The first group is movies that are stupid and funny, though maybe not on purpose funny, and then movies that successfully bend the genre. And of course, these are my top 6 are Sharknado, and most of them are Sci-Fi Channel movies, because Sci-Fi kind of in the late 90s and the early aughts sort of embraced this B-movie, Saturday night, crappy sci-fi horror movie thing. And they did that for a number of years. I don't know if they're still doing it, but they did it for a number of years. And they produced such hits such as Sharknado and Snow Spiders and Dino Shark and Mega Python versus Gatoroid. And then there's some other ones in there, Piranha 3D and Velocipaster. So Sharknado, again, it's a classic. It has spun off. I want to say there's 4 or 5 Sharknadoes now. A series of, yeah. And then Snow Spiders is exactly what it is. It's about a ski resort that gets overtaken by large spiders. Piranha 3D, that was a James Cameron's. I want to say that was a James Cameron directed. I want to say it was his debut, and it's god awful. But there's something about the effects of it that this is. There's something about a piranha eating a penis it just sticks with you. I don't know what to say.
That's funny.
Yeah. Dino Shark. Now, the 5th one, Mega Python versus Gatoroid, is a personal favorite of mine because it actually stars Debbie Gibson and what's the other one's name from the 80s?
Oh,
Tiffany.
Oh my
Tiffany
God.
And Debbie Gibson as scientists.
I I'm a Python scientist. I'm a Gatoroid
I'm a
scientist.
Gatorade scientist. Yeah, it's amazing. And so that one goes on. And then, of course, Velocipaster, which was a movie that you and I reviewed a couple years ago. And it is exactly what it is. It's about a pastor who can transform himself into a velociraptor. And it's basically this kid's project that he did for his master's. And so to say that it's low budget is an understatement.
It's hilarious. It's so
It is.
yes.
The hands, the car that doesn't blow up. There's just a little sign at the bottom that says special effects explosion.
Definitely not taking itself too seriously.
No. Now, these are movies that you could actually take some time to watch. These are movies that successfully bend, we'll say, the horror comedy genre. And I think the gold standard, the one that does it better than anybody, is Cabin in the Woods, because it takes every cliche of a horror movie. Oh, you know what? Rats, I forgot to put it on there. I almost want to hang on. I got to do this real quick. There's two that I forgot to put on here, and I can't live without them. Evil Dead.
Oh, yeah.
And Army of Darkness.
I was going to say Army of Darkness has to be on there.
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot those. I can't do. I got to fix it right now. Right now. Evil Dead. I'm going to say Evil Dead 2. Boop, because that one is better. And Army of Darkness. Whew, that's better. Ooh, yeah, I can't live without that one. So Cabin in the Woods is the best of them all because, like I said, it literally gives you, and they do that on purpose. They literally give you every cliche in a horror movie for a reason, and that movie just completely catches you off guard. Shaun of the Dead, which of course I talked about earlier, which is about this loser named Sean who has to he and his buddy, who are both, like I said, man children, they get caught in the zombie apocalypse, and it's them trying to figure out how to save everybody, and they end up, their idea is to go hide out at a local pub. Winchester. Hot Fuzz, which is an action comedy. I think it's my top, one of my top 3 favorite comedies ever. Number 4 is World's End, the third in that trilogy. Deep Blue Sea, which has one of the greatest moments in horror movie history, the Samuel L. Jackson monologue. Amazing. Anaconda, which is a shockingly fun movie. Lake Placid, which has Ice Cube in it. So there you go. There's the tie-in. Lake Placid, which is Betty White, who is just golden in that movie. It's about a giant alligator in a lake that lives in a lake in New York. Arachnophobia, great spider movie. Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, which Evil Dead, so there's the Evil Dead trilogy, which was a graduate project, and that was Sam Raimi, was it not? Followed by Evil Dead, which was the sequel, which has some great comic moments in, and then Army of Darkness, which pretty much goes full comedy.
The only one I think you forgot here, Jenny, and I realize it's not really a horror movie one, but since you have Hot Fuzz, which is actually a buddy cop one, I would also include Galaxy Quest.
Oh yeah. Oh, you're right. Because that goes into the genre bender of the sci-fi. Yeah, Galaxy Quest. Wow, what a great movie. Yeah, and again, hits off all the Star Trek cliches. So. Yeah. So yeah, that's my list. So again, not a fan of Cocaine Bear overall. I felt like it left me wanting. So.
I understand. I'm not saying your arguments are not valid, Jenny. They are valid. I think it's probably a good thing Elizabeth Banks got a hold of this movie because I think it's better for her.
Yeah.
Because she has this very funny, she has this very quirky, vision. So I think it was probably a good thing she got a hold of it. I can't disagree with you, but I just really, there were some things I just loved about this movie so much, like the whole ambulance thing.
Okay, the ambulance scene was a comedy of errors.
Yes.
And I wanted more of that sort of ridiculousness, and there just wasn't enough of that. And in the end, I really felt, because it was not a long movie. It was like an 89-minute movie, and I felt like at the end, they're like, God, we got to get a little bit more. So let's do this. Let's bring this character back. And you're just like, oh, okay, what? Yeah. So disappointing, but nevertheless, not a bad way to spend Saturday afternoon. Yeah.
I thought it was entertaining, and I hope we see similar movies in this new modern fairy tale genre.
The new modern fairy tale genre with the Ann brothers
And brothers.
as your narrator.
Well, commit and sell.
Mhm. Truth. So yeah. I was thinking about something just a second ago. I don't remember what it was. It doesn't matter. It's not important. It was about movies, but it's okay. Yeah. I'm trying to think of what's coming up that I want to watch. There's a movie coming out in the next couple of weeks that I'm super excited about.
Mhm.
Oh, no, it's the movie. You've seen it and I haven't. It's Plane.
Oh my gosh, Jenny, we have to see that.
Okay.
It is surprisingly good. And I'm not just saying that. It was, even Duncan was like, I'm liking this movie.
Ann and I are both obsessed with Gerard Butler, the Scottish, this Scot who has been in all kinds of below. Well, I first became sort of obsessed with him when he was in 300 because a lot of hot guys in 300, including him.
Guys.
Yeah. And he has made all kinds of terrible movies since, but they're movies that are so bad they're good. All of the Angels Have Fallen movies, and then he's in a new movie called Plane, like Plane, like an airplane. He's the pilot, and it gets hijacked and all this stuff. So yeah. Eventually we will review that movie because that one I think you could see it on. Is it Netflix or is it Prime?
I want to say it's Prime. It's on Prime
Okay.
right now. So
Right.
yeah. I guess they're supposed to do a series, plane, boat, escalator,
Elevator.
I don't know, but I was like, Duncan, let's watch this. Please. He's like, fine. He's like, I'm enjoying this. What's wrong with me? And I was like, your brain is finally melted enough.
I don't know though. It kind of beats movies like that are more fun than because I was telling you earlier that I watched the movie Women Talking last night, which was fantastic. It was such a good movie, and it was so effing hard to watch. It's a Brussels sprout movie, meaning that it's good for you, but it's not easy to eat. And this movie was a really excellent watch, but I don't know if I could watch it again because it's really powerful and really sad, and this is what we do to women. Yeah, it's what we do to women.
But unlike that, you can watch Cocaine Bear all the time. So.
All the time. You can watch Cocaine Bear. Cocaine Bear is what you have on while you're doing other things because you don't have to think about it at all.
Exactly.
Yeah. So pretty much that entire list of movies I had up are not movies that you have to think through. Those are not deep thinkers at all. That's okay. Yeah. That's actually, I put Hot Fuzz on because I own Hot Fuzz. I actually put it on when I have things to do because I know it pretty much by heart and it cracks me up all the time. So I'm like, oh, I got to dust. Hot Fuzz. I got homework to do. Hot Fuzz. I got to type this. Hot Fuzz. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Indeed. So do you want to talk about our next show, Ann Brothers?
What's going to be in our next show, Jenny Brothers?
Well, we had talked about. We've had a request from our audience. We have a request from one of our viewers that we need to do like a Dear Abby sort of show. So coming up, probably in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be doing what's called Dear Brothers Sisters, where you guys write us ahead of time with problems that you would like us to solve, advice that you would like us to give. And this stemmed from the fact that when we were life coaches, we had people that wanted a little bit more of our life coaching, but maybe anonymously. So.
Yeah. And I already have our first question. We already, a question has already been submitted to us. I'm not going to read it yet because I don't want to spoil it, but okay. I will, I'm not going to tell you who wrote it, but I will say that Dance Dissolution in Southfield. Thank you for this question.
All right. Good job. Wow. Okay. Yeah, we got some work to do. Also, people want us to eat more things that we don't like. So
I've liked most of this stuff, but yes, we'll definitely come up with more foods. Foods are fun. I like to eat food, so that's
I do too. So
I'm getting all flushed from my
I know,
wine.
you got margarita face, Ann Brothers.
Yeah, I'm getting all flushed.
So for those of you that don't know, when Ann has a margarita, she turns into what we call Margarita Ann, which is fun to it's fun to watch that transformation. Unless you're Duncan.
You gotta watch. The first time it happened, I went to a Mexican restaurant in Sturgis and got one of those margaritas that's like the size of a bathtub that you can sit in while you drink. And it was really busy and they were a little understaffed. So we were finished. We had to wait in line to pay our check. You know, it was one of those places where you just give them and they come back.
They don't take the check in for you. Yeah.
So we're standing there waiting at the cash register with like 4 or 5 other people waiting to pay. And the phone is ringing and ringing and ringing. And I had too much to drink. So I like pick up the phone. And I'm like, hi, this is whatever Mexican restaurant. How can I help you? And they're like, I'd like to place a carrot order. I'm like, excellent.
That's right. Ann Brothers gets drunk at Mexican restaurants and takes over the takeout order section of the phone.
And he's like, oh, that sounds so good. Do you want a flan? And so I upsold him a flan. And then when the guy came to take our money, I'm like, he's going to be here in 15 minutes. You better get this made.
Yeah. So that's Marguerite Ann. You cannot be trusted. So, yeah. And then Duncan usually has to mop up that mess. So, sorry, Duncan.
Daddy, take me home. I'm going to lay in the back seat. I'm sleeping in Snickers.
So, yeah. So, anyway, that is our show for today. You have everything you need to know about Cocaine Bear. You have both a regular review and you have the deep and meaningful PhD level review provided by Ann Brothers. You know, take it for what it is. One quick note about Cocaine Bear, this whole business that it's a true story, that's a stretch. There was a plane that crashed that was full of cocaine. A bear ate some cocaine and then died. That's the real story. And that happened back in the 80s. So that whole thing based on a true story? Not really.
Not really. You can't eat that cocaine.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that 2 guys were like, dude, did you hear about that one time that bear ate coke and died? And they're like, dude, that'd be an awesome movie. And then they wrote Cocaine Bear.
And then they wrote Cocaine Bear. Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah.
There you go. All right, you guys, thanks for joining us today, and we hope that you enjoy a movie, if not Cocaine Bear, then some of the other suggestions. Take good care. Oh, I got to put our brand up behind us. Hang on, I got to put the brand up. All right, you guys, peace and out, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.